Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. So today's pick a card reading is the third in a series. I think we've pretty much decided it's going to be a series of collaborations between the wonderful Reena from Gold Key Guidance and I in looking at pairings across the major arcana in tarot. We've had a lot of fun looking at the messages of the High Priestess and the Magician, and then the Hermit and the Hierophant. So today we're looking at what messages the Chariot and the Hanged Man will bring to you. So I'm doing the Chariot and Reena will do the Hanged Man. And we thought about this pairing because the Chariot is all about forward momentum. It's about what we need to balance and get into control so that we really direct and move forward in our lives. I often equate it with destiny, with really sort of following big ticket items. So that's what I'll be exploring. What's ready in your life to really move forward, and what are the sort of factors you need to take into control to keep everything in control so you get the best outcome. Whereas we felt the Hanged Man, which is what Reena will look at, is those areas in your life where a different perspective, a kind of slowing down, a reconsideration, maybe even a reprioritisation is necessary. Now, this could be the same thing. It could be that you're actually ready to move forward, but before you do that, you should contemplate and think about different perspectives and be ready for different outcomes. Or it could be that they're very, very different, and there's one area in your life you're ready to really move forward with, and there's another that it's time for that kind of reconsideration and contemplation. So hopefully both will be of interest to you, and you'll get a kind of well-rounded idea about what to move forward with, what to reconsider in your life, and how that supports your highest good. Just going to move these slightly up on the screen. So that's what we're doing, and as always, I will have the connection to Reena's readings in the description box below. I think she'll bring that, her characteristic depth and insight to those areas that really do require that kind of inner examination, whereas I'm kind of more on the active end here. This is all about getting on with it and doing something. So I think we're playing to our strengths here. I think, as I've often said, Reena is very sort of deep and goes and multi-layers into things, and I think I kind of like to just do things sometimes, and I'm probably the least patient person in the universe, so it seemed like the natural choice here. So hopefully we are the right guides for you in bringing the messages from the Chariot and the Hanged Man. So with no further ado, let's just put down the numbers for those who like the numbers. As usual, I've got 3 readings to choose from. You are more than welcome to go to more than one if you feel drawn to it. As has become a bit of a tradition with the way we do this, I'm using 3 different decks for the different energies, so I've got the Chariot from 3 different decks. So if you're familiar with these decks, or you like the imagery, particularly the Chariot here, that might help you choose. There might be other reasons that you choose, whatever works for you. For pile number 1, I have the Chariot from the Ornamented Tarot. For pile number 2, I have the Chariot from the White Fly Tarot. And for pile number 3, I have the Chariot from the Slavic Legends Tarot, which I think is a really cool chariot. It's got Baba Yaga there, in charge of taking the chariot of birds forward. So that particularly interests you as a particular Slavic legend. That might be something that draws to you. We'll see to what degree that's really relevant to the direct question when we get there. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, I've got the timestamps in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So what we have here is the Chariot card that you were drawn to, potentially, as the reason that you came to the reading. We have some astrology cards to get a sense about what is the nature of your Chariot journey, what area or areas in life are you ready to really move forward. And we also have here, and I'll uncover it at the end before we move into the tarot portion of the reading, a question that is key to this forward momentum and to managing all the issues. So it's interesting for you, I feel. For a start, with this Chariot, what is interesting to me is, of the 3 chariots that you could choose from, this is the one that didn't seem to have a person driving it. If you have a look at it, it looks like the chariot itself, but it doesn't seem to have a driver. So, though it's interesting, we've got like a butterfly just at the top, almost flying down to that. So I think there's a transformation associated with this Chariot energy about potentially is the next step on your own, or is it with others? And the interesting thing about that is that we have Moon and Library here, which is about sort of social issues. It's about the emotion connected to social issues. But in this deck, it particularly talks about bringing peace to your life and relationships to flourish and love. And then we have Mercury, which is all about communication and how you connect with others. And Virgo, which is about the structures of life. So I feel that this, and we will see what the question is, but I think that there is something here about a forward momentum, a destiny that you're moving towards, whatever it might be, about decisions about how you structure your life and your relationships. Are you at a point in your life where bringing love in, settling down, creating a family is something that you want to do, for instance? Or are you at a point in your career where the connection, the sort of social media, social niceties and communication is what's going to make you money, but it's in connection with others, where maybe you've been a bit of a kind of a lone traveler to date? Or is it the opposite? Is it that you can value these things, but to be ready to have them in your life, you first of all have to go your own pathway? So I think it may depend who's come to this reading, but I think it could also, we're going to learn more about it with the tarot. We'll see which direction the Chariot is going here. Is it going towards picking up a partner to move forward in some aspect of life where there is a kind of a commitment operating, where there is a very good and warm social or love feeling, and where communication is high? Or is it, in fact, as I say, you need to do your own path before you can have that in your life? So this is maybe the key question for this particular reading. But let's see what the question is that Spirit wants you to consider. So this is the constellation of Ursa Major. Are you the hunter or the hunted? Okay. So this is pivotal. What this is about, whether this is about a love relationship, whether this is about a career, whatever it is that you are ready to move forward with, the question is who's driving the Chariot? That's why we can't see. Is it you going after love, connection, commitment, or is it someone who's coming for you? And that doesn't necessarily mean, even being hunted doesn't mean it's bad, but if someone is coming in this Chariot for you, then will you be able to take the reins of the Chariot and go in the direction you want? If you are looking to take the Chariot to someone else, are you looking now for the right person? So this is very, very much around moving forward in relationship and determining your own sovereignty in relationship, whether it's in love or career or friendship or anything. And I think this is the pivotal question. Are you moving forward on your own propulsion, or is it somehow in combination with others? And if that's the case, to what degree are you driving this? I think that's what Spirit wants you to have a look at. So let's ask with Tarot a bit more about the forward momentum. What does that look like? We're going to also ask about what needs to be balanced, because the Chariot is all about balancing things, head and heart, sort of past and future, all sorts of, getting all the various things in balance. Then what don't you see that could impact it? And then we're just going to ask for a couple of cards for the perspective of the Hangman, like where might a different perspective be helpful for it? So firstly, what is the forward momentum, to you at this point? What would that look like to move forward in your life at this point? King of Wands, Seven of Swords reversed, Five of Pentacles, High Priestess, the Hierophant. Wow. Okay, so firstly what I'm going to say is, whatever this is, I think it's very, the Chariot is all about action, forward momentum. It is about relationship in one form, and it's very significant about what your mastery is, but it's very spiritual as well. With the High Priestess and the Hierophant. And what interests me, this is the same energy that I'm getting about this. I feel like the Hierophant is if the other is the one who's instigating this. And then the question is, what does that mean in terms of your Chariot moving forward? Is it two chariots that move forward together in unison? Or is there almost a thing about who controls the reins? And the High Priestess feels to me to be you taking the reins, your inner direction. What are you looking to do? And I think here the Moon and Libra is almost the key about this, because Libra is a sign that looks for balance and it looks for harmony. It's very socially adept. And I think one of the things here is to have a very realistic look at what does it mean to not be on your own anymore in whatever this is. Because there is a momentum here, either financial or kind of relational, where you felt alone or felt that you haven't had all you could have. And there is an opportunity. There is definitely an opportunity coming. As I say, whether it's love, career, whatever it might be. But you need to be very realistic about this, because you're meant to lead out on this. You're meant to be coming into your own creative thing. And it's a combination of your social skills, your intellect and your communication skills and what you can manifest. So this is the time is right for this. But this is a card of charisma too, and this hunter or hunted, it may also be to make sure and be very realistic about who you would make that commitment to, who you would let in the chariot, who you would potentially let have the reins sometimes, and then you have the reins. There's something here about what you draw in, and it really makes me think, and I've talked about this in other readings, most really charismatic people I know have very strange relationships. It's not their fault, but they can draw a lot of people to them that are not quite the right connection because there's something so compelling about them. I think there's something like that for you. This is where having your inner knowing about this, and it's tilting towards you need to know that you would pursue this person or this opportunity, not just that they're pursuing you. Because I think there's a whole issue here. I think because of maybe strain around relationships where things like this has happened before, you may have been alone before, or you might have been very autonomous in a career, and this is about your creative energy is drawing in an opportunity. But there is something here, because the High Priestess is the kind of spiritual energy that is very inner knowing, the very, very kind of divine feminine as well. Hierophant is old structures, traditions, and people who kind of almost assume to themselves a mantle of being boss. So there's something in all of this. There's something in your momentum at the moment. I think it'll be very important to go and see the Hangman, and we will ask for a couple of cards as a teaser for that in this. But it's going to be very important for this, because I think for pile one, it's very likely that the two will actually connect. Because I think this is both saying do the forward momentum, but there's a really fundamental question here about how you take the reins, and that may require the kind of contemplation and different perspective of the Hanged Man. But let's ask, what are you trying to balance in this? Like, let's get a little bit more information on what you're trying to balance in this. King of Cups, Temperance reverse. So yeah, the emotional stuff out of this is out of balance. Knight of Pentacles, the Fool reversed. Okay. This is not unfamiliar to you, and I think you've tilted towards being on your own or being very autonomous. So if this is in a work sort of situation, you've always tilted towards being on your own, doing your own path rather than committing or collaborating with others. If it's relationship, then it's like any degree of commitment that you do is very pragmatic, and you know this pattern, you've seen it before. So this isn't new. I think you spend significant periods of time on your own rather than in relationship. But I do think if this is about love, that there is an opportunity coming. There is a possibility of having someone with you in the chariot, and what does that mean, and how would you feel comfortable with it? And that's what you need to get into balance, because you are very empathic. You're charismatic and you're empathic. You're coming up as these two kings. It's not about gender. I don't know what gender you are or identify with. That's not the issue. But you're very charismatic. You're very empathic. But it's complicated your life, pile one. It really has. That's why you've spent a lot of time on your own in whatever this is, career or relationship. You have to get in balance what it would look like for this to be in balance. You've got to get an equal. I really think this is very much tilting towards the point at which you could take your chariot forward into a relationship, or even into like some sort of work partnership. It's when it's with an equal, because it's not been happening that way. You've actually been attracting people who are attracted to your charisma and your depth, but they like to control, and they think they're right. So this is the question. finding, and I think Mercury may be the clue here about like the communication to understand. Are you dealing with a high priestess energy like yours, or are you dealing with a Hierophant? Because there's something very new, I think, about what you want to bring in as well too. You've tried before and you've learned from it. The good thing about you is you don't need to learn twice, but there's a little bit of almost cynicism that you have to deal with, because to really bring in the potential of the Moon and Libra here, you need to kind of also think it's possible to commit, possible to have someone in that chariot with you. And that's what you need to bring into balance. What would that look like? It's a balance of equals. I think that's what it's saying. So what don't you see that could help you with this? Five of Cups, Knight of Cups reversed, Knight of Swords. Okay. I think for a lot of you, this is about love. I mean, like, and that was kind of tilted to here. I mean, it could also be around career and so forth. It is possible with these cards, but it's a very emotional connection operation here. And you've kind of lost faith in love, because I think in the past you've just sort of like gone in and just, the Knight of Swords upright often like acts before they think, you know, the swords in general think things through, but the Knight of Swords just wants to get on with it. And as a result, you've kind of lost faith in love. And you've been alone, it looks like. Or if you're in a relationship, it's like you feel like you're alone in some way, or that the romance has left it or something. You really want to break through if that's the case. But it's almost as though your chariot, you're not letting someone else in, or you're not even getting in the chariot yourself. Like, it's almost like you've sort of stepped away from like the possibility of this. So, but it's a pattern. You have learnt, but what you haven't seen is how it's almost your default to just go forward without thinking it through that's brought about the disappointment. This is what this is saying. This is saying that to get the balance for your chariot, you need to understand the dynamics you're dealing with, because of how you attract people. And this does not mean that you can't attract the right person. It just means that you need to know better what to look for. And so, and if you just kind of go in, you kind of like, it's almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is, I mean, and remember, you know, like Libra is all about balance, and like the Moon in an air sign will think things through. This is the key. Think things through, talk, make sure you know who you're letting in your chariot, pile one, because it's better to be the hunter than the hunted in that way, because you know, if you have a set of criteria, you know what that looks like, then you're not likely to court the kind of almost, it just feels like it's reactive. It feels like you are very attractive. People come to you and you kind of react and hope for the best, and then you get disappointed, and you're not sort of seeing, you're not seeing that you need to step back. I do think that the Hanged Man will be very important for you. So do see Reena's reading, but just as a teaser for that, let's just ask for 2 cards of advice from the Hanged Man around this situation. Queen of Wands reversed, 2 of Cups. Yeah, the Hanged Man does want you to contemplate things differently. The Hanged Man himself is upside down, right? And then we get 2 reverse cards. This is saying what you really want to do. If you think about the Hanged Man, if you kind of turn these cards over, like in the way that he's hanging, you would then have the Queen of Wands upright and the 2 of Cups upright. That's what you're meant to be. You're meant to find your King of Wands, Queen of Wands. You're meant to sort of like bring in the similar sort of like charisma, the similar level. This is what it's saying. That's the way it will work. It's not going to work otherwise. But maybe you don't realize how attractive you are. And maybe when things don't work, you've kind of almost inculcated that, and you really don't think you are, but you really are. And that's the problem. If you're not very clear about what door you're opening, you know, who you're letting in the carriage, that kind of thing. That's really not just to react, not just to not be lonely. There is a promise here with this, that this is meant to come in, but it's like not to repeat things that diminish your light or make you feel that you have to diminish your light in some way, or do what people tell you to do to just not be alone. So it's all there. The promise is there, but you kind of almost got to up your standards for yourself. Like you're really underselling yourself on this is what it's coming down to, and it won't work. It won't work, part one, because your kind of attractiveness, your energy is too formidable for that. It will always be a kind of internal struggle. It will always be something like that. And feel more like being possessed than being in a relationship, unless you get that balance of equals. And if this is around sort of career or something like that, it's the same sort of thing. You can come into harmony around what you want to create with others, but only when you make sure that you're working with people who are in your league. So a very, very strong message here. So let's get a little bit of further information. So one of the things that I was thinking about is, the Chariot moves forward on wheels. So I wanted to look at archetype and alchemy energy. It's almost like kind of wheels that are moving. And I want to get two. So I want to get two elements or areas in your life connected to this. What the archetype is that's in movement here that will help you, and then the alchemy, what is the transformative energy that sort of propels the Chariot along. So firstly, the first archetype that is helpful here is the tear. Okay, yeah, letting go of painful things from the past. This allowing yourself to grieve that. Maybe you've even held some of that back. I think you've blamed yourself a lot. You haven't understood. And honestly, as I say, the people I've seen with charisma, they don't necessarily understand. You almost need to kind of point it out to them because they're in the experience and it's just the experience that they've always known. But it's like it creates very weird reactions from people. But that's the only kind of reaction they're used to. So I think there's sort of like a sense of allowing the grief of what's occurred to go so that you can start to believe in it again, because you don't. You've got a self-fulfilling prophecy around this. But, this is saying there's an opportunity for this to come in, but you've got to allow yourself to grieve what didn't work and understand why it didn't work. So what's the alchemy with this particular set of wheels in your Chariot? Oh, yeah. Oil of vitriol, yeah. Oil of vitriol basically says, because vitriol is a bitter substance, that you are at a phase of letting go here of something that has been difficult, that hasn't worked. To allow, other things like sweetness to come in, but you have to understand that vitriol is a very powerful substance. So if you stay in the sense that this is all it's ever going to be and you're always going to be on your own, or you're always going to sort of have these complicated, weird relationships, then you're allowing the lion here to consume you. But on the other hand, if you see the vitriol almost as weirdly, I might say palate cleanser, a way to kind of clear this energy out, there's almost a purging energy here, then you can be in control and you can leach the bitterness out. But there's something in whatever this is. As I say, you've had some real disappointments, but this is promising something else is coming. Your Chariot is ready for you at least to get in and ride it, but I think this is in harmony with someone else, with the right person. So let's see the second set of wheels. So the archetype for the second set of wheels is Apocalypse. This is revelation. Okay, so this is the revelation of this. I swear to God, pile one, if you've come to the right reading, you will have had a pattern of these sort of relationships, and it's because you're charismatic. I absolutely think the King of Wands is the thing here, the Queen of Wands reversed. Stepping back and seeing that makes a hell of a difference, because you know what you have to calibrate for and you know what you need to look for. So this is a revelation. So allowing the bitterness and then having the revelation. Apocalypse is not the end of the world. It is revelation. Allowing that revelation to literally revolutionize your world. That's the Chariot. That's moving forward. That's taking control again. So let's see the alchemy energy behind this set of wheels. Neptune. Okay, so this is going into the numinous. This is going into the spiritual. As I said, with the High Priestess and the Hierophant, there's something very, very spiritual in this. If it's hard to process some of this, because as I say, I think you've probably gone through weird relationships and not even had any idea why, then go within and start to understand the principles within. Let your Neptunian kind of connection connect you. And it's almost like, I feel like I want to say to you, almost like kind of, allow yourself to almost embody the high priestess and feel what that feels like. And then allow yourself to embody the Hierophant with the more sort of rigid structures and frameworks and so forth, and see the difference. Because if you can feel the difference for the high priestess, and she's much more Neptunian thing, I think you'll feel the constriction of the Hierophant if you do that sort of exercise. This is part of the revelation of understanding why you're attracting those sort of people. Because those sort of people want power, they want status, they want things their way. And so charismatic people are like catnip for them because they want that energy. But the high priestess energy wants to commune, and I think that will help you. I really think like an exercise of kind of almost closing your eyes and embodying that within yourself. I think that would be really, really helpful, because this is the revelation you're meant to get, so that you bring the right person in, because that's what will help you do it. So what I also thought would be interesting is to get some advice from different sort of successful people, because the Chariot is all about destiny moving forward and forward momentum. And I'm thinking like there are three aspects to this. One is the rhythm that you need to get into. A Chariot moving along as a rhythm, so we're going to get a music oracle for that. One is the design. How do you design the life that you're moving into? And we use the fashion oracles for that. And the last one is, what is the destination, the success that you want? So we're going to use the success oracles. Now, I may or may not know the people who come up in these. That's not really as important. If you know, it may mean something to you, and by all means take that to you. I'm more looking at what the advice is on each case. So when we're talking about the rhythm to get into for your Chariot, pile 1, we get Billie Holiday. If you are going to play with your whole soul. I think this is this energy. There's a rhythm, a music almost. Music may even help you with embodying these things. There's something there about getting it in your soul. She says, you have no understudy. Yeah, that's right. You don't. You're very unique. But if you find someone who is like you in the sense that they are also very unique, they're whole within themselves. They have that charisma, or maybe even it's kind of charisma and gravitas. They don't necessarily have to also be charismatic, but like just at that kind of level. And she says, sometimes losing beats winning. Yeah, I think there's something that you were meant to learn from this. Like if you had too quickly ended up with someone, you might have, without even realizing it, gone into the Hierophant's world and got stuck there. So then, if we've got the rhythm, so then we want to actually look at how you design your pathway. Wow, Jacqueline Kennedy. There's a power couple. So what I was talking about, pile 1, the concept of finding an equal, and massively charismatic, a style icon, in fact. She says, make manners your most important accessory. That goes with the Moon and Libra. You have a great deal of charm. You can use this. If you are feeling that you're being overwhelmed by others, or that people are wanting more than you can give because of the charisma, you can actually put some boundaries around that so that you have time to work out who are the right people for you. She says pearls are always appropriate. Well, that's true. Pearls are always appropriate. But I actually think there's a double message to that. I always say with the pearl, it's created by the grit in the oyster. Without a little bit of the grit, you don't get to the revelation and the true understanding. And she says, be first lady of your own Camelot. Yeah, your own Camelot. You decide who the king is. And what then would success look like? Would success on the journey for your Chariot, pile 1? John Paul Getty. Okay. Money. Money, potentially. He says freebies don't build trust funds. So, yeah, like I think that you draw so many people in that they're always wanting something from you. It's kind of like, who's going to give something back to you as well too? A true friend splits the bill even with a billionaire. Yeah, what is balanced? I do think that, like as I say, there's been a lot of kind of almost feeding on your energy, feeding on you. You need to become aware of what that is. And he says frugality in life, generosity thereafter. So I don't think that's necessarily saying that you have to be too literally frugal, but I think it's like, don't give away all your energy and your love and your joy to anybody other than somebody who deserves it. Somebody who is for forever, in a way, the real one. And I think there's a promise here that they could come in, but only if you break the patterns that have drawn the other people to you. So let's ask your soul, your 5D soul, for a couple of pieces of advice for you. Feel the power of your blood and your ancestors. So blood, passion, the wands energy. There's probably prototypes of who you were and your energy and your charisma in your past. Have a look at that. Think about that. Or call upon your ancestors for help. And listen to the eternal song of your soul. Yeah, it needs to connect to that. I just think when you bring in this Hierophant energy or the hunter energy, it's like all that you have to give, the love that you have to give, all that thing gets kind of like distorted into somebody else's chariot and somebody else's journey. But if you listen to the song of your soul, you understand the lineage you come from, then as I say, you're going to find it easier to draw in the right person to be in the carriage with you. And you're not going to let anybody in until it's the right one. That's what I think that picking that chariot was saying. Okay. Last but not least, I just want to bring in some wild card energy to remember in all of this. So this is just the kind of things to sort of bring together any last sort of information from the chariot for you for your journey. Sort of things that might be unexpected on the way, but that will either be helpful or challenges that you also need to navigate. So we have Spirit has my back. Spirit guide. Oh, yes, the power of your ancestors. I think it might be very much connected to ancestral lines. Superior help, reassurance. Have faith. Have faith. You don't have all this energy and attractiveness for nothing, but it's like others have kind of, as I say, kind of, clamped onto it. You need to sort of like have faith that you're going to get guided to the right person and the right thing. You just need, and that's also, again, connecting to the High Priestess, I feel. And Man on Fire, interested male, attraction, secret admirer. Well, that could be a number of things. This could be, and it doesn't have to be that. If we take the gender out of it, there's a man on fire and a woman on fire on this, and they kind of mean the same thing. Someone is coming who's going to be very attracted to you. That happens to you a lot, I think, though. But I think there could be a very key one, and it's like if you've done all this work and you're ready for that, then you can actually that probably at the very point when you least expect to find someone who is right for you, that's when they're going to come in. But there is genuine attraction. So you can know that that's happening. And last but not least, just a card from the Cute and Creepy Oracle as well. Wisdom, the combination of knowledge, experience, and intuitive understanding. Yeah, and that's this Neptune thing, the High Priestess, Minerva energy with the owl there. You will have the wisdom to do this. In fact, you've got more wisdom than you think. You really, really undercredit yourself, Pole 1. Other people see you completely differently to what you do, and it bemuses you in a way, and you end up in these patterns and you don't understand them. But once this revelation, this understanding, this aha, that wisdom comes out, and that will help you. You'll be guided and to bring the right person in. But it's like you've got to purge this energy out first and understand it for what it was, because there's pretenders to the throne of your heart as well, Pile 1. And Spirit and the Chariot here want to protect you from that. Want to make sure it's the right person in your chariot with you. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. As I did say, I do think there's almost like an exercise here, almost like a spiritual exercise to do, connecting, say, to the High Priestess, but I think also the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man can like give that different perspective, really help bring that revelation forward. So I really, really strongly urge you to go and see Reena's reading as well too, and see what comes with that. Of course, he could pick up something else and something different in your life, but I still think there's going to be an echo of this that will also help. So I hope that this reading was enjoyable, and if so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the Chariot from the White Fly, and it's interesting, this particular chariot here always looks like Poseidon to me. So and I guess that kind of makes sense when you see that it's sea creatures who are actually being the momentum for the chariot. So this has a sense of the depths to me, a sense of the sort of tumultuous waters of emotion and so forth. So I feel that there is something deeply emotional about your chariot journey now and what you can move forward with. Of course, they often say that with the chariot is the balancing of the head and the heart, for instance, or emotions with the intellect. So that certainly could be connected to this. And it's interesting to see that we have Cancer, a water sign, and then we have Aquarius, a intellectual sign, an air sign, as two, in a sense, the two energies here. I feel very much like this is this is this dolphin and this is this dolphin. And I think the direction, the navigational thing is here with the second house. So what this seems to be saying to me is that you probably come first. This is the first of the astrology cards that came out. This is a question we will get to. This is the first one that came out, and it's got eclipse in Cancer. Now, so when an eclipse operates in a sign, it brings certain things to the surface, and it sometimes shows where there's a pushback or where things are being sort of suppressed in some way. So this does suggest, because it talks about an emotional phase or domestic development, acceptance, there is something here about you processing the emotional implications of things. And this, I think, is why you've been drawn to the Poseidon version of the Chariot, either consciously or unconsciously. And you are maybe more comfortable in the intellectual and the transpersonal with Aquarius. It's a very freedom-loving energy here, but I think there is a decision here, and it has to do with what is the life that you value and the life that you want to create. This is why this is almost like the navigational system of the Chariot, where the balance here is between the wish for sort of freedom, transpersonal, intellectual energy, as opposed to the sort of safer, and I don't mean that in a lesser sense, safer, secure, emotional energy. And there is a tendency, I think, to tilt towards this. But that's why you've got Poseidon. It's like bringing this into balance. Like, what is the emotional, the longer-term emotional cost of what your forward momentum is, which I think is about creating a life that, as I say, it's kind of future-focused, it's transpersonal, it's about causes and so forth. But you also need to find your emotional home and your an acceptance within yourself. In fact, I'm getting for some of you that there may even be a tilt towards a cause or something because there's something within yourself that you don't accept. So you project that out and you fight causes or whatever. It's like you want to create a good, financially secure, enjoyable life, but you almost feel a bit guilty about it. So there's something here about the looking after self and those closest to you as opposed to looking after a cause, and how this is, how you navigate this by wanting to create the life that you want to create. So I think it is saying that this is the thing. What are you eclipsing in your emotional life for this almost philosophical and cause-related sort of stuff? So let's see what the question is that is being asked. You have Apis, and it says, what if your breakdown is your breakthrough? So this with the eclipse in Cancer could be saying that what's really going on with the momentum of what you could move forward with now is coming to grips with where you almost protect this too much. Like where, as I say, you're a bit detached in what you're trying to create. You're protecting your emotional things so much because you think if you tilt more towards this, that maybe, you have a breakdown, well, not necessarily a breakdown full stop, but a kind of like that's where the risk is. This feels safer and easier to align to the decisions you're making about your material world and your material life. This is harder because it's emotionally messier. So I think that the Chariot here wants you to balance that off. I think the Chariot is saying, in actual fact, that acceptance of yourself, like I feel like for some of you, you have a really strong heart and a really strong sort of sense of moral decency and all that kind of stuff, spiritual decency. And that's easier. You kind of accept the cause more than the part of you that wants to create a life for yourself. And I think this is sort of bringing this into balance to know that you might hit blocks in creating, or even in meeting the cause, if you don't also create a life for yourself and a home for yourself. So there's something here. You're at a tipping point. So let's see what we get in terms of a bit more information. So we're going to ask Tarot a few things. We're going to ask a little bit more about what forward momentum would really look like. What's the Chariot really wanting to talk to you about and encourage you to do? We're going to also have a look at what needs to be balanced to make that happen. We're going to have a look at what you don't see that could be impacting this. And then we're going to get a couple of cards for the input of the Hanged Man prior to you going and seeing Reena's if you haven't seen it already, or as a sort of postscript to Reena's if you've seen Reena's reading already. So firstly, what would this forward momentum really be for you if you kind of allowed yourself to look after your emotional needs as much as you're looking after your cause? I think. Knight of Swords reversed. Ace of Wands. Nine of Swords reversed. Knight of Wands. The World reversed. Okay. So you give yourself a really hard time, pile 2. It's interesting, pile 1 did as well, but in a different way. The way that you're giving yourself a hard time is you carry a lot of kind of guilt, and you shouldn't. There's not actually anything wrong. I think you really do. You've inculcated a viewpoint that you can't follow the cause and the transpersonal and all of that sort of stuff at the same time thinking about what it means to you. It's almost like if somebody offered you a very stable home and a very, high status job or whatever and said, and this is going to help you do the cause more, you'd feel almost like somehow you were betraying the cause. Like, the momentum here is to let go of the guilt and let go of the sort of preconceptions you have about what it is to live a good life and an ethical life, because there's something like that going on. And to cease to be so conservative about things. Like, I don't know whether it's a spiritual thing or whether it's a political thing or what it is, and I'm not saying necessarily politics in terms of conservative or progressive, but there's something where you've put a brake on yourself. This is what it's saying. And anything that's about the sort of transpersonal, future focus, all that kind of thing, that's fine. And if there's a little bit of a, outcome financially or something for you, that's fine, because it's all in the name of the cause. But there is just as much value in you feeling secure and emotionally happy and having the life you want. Like, you deserve it, but you just don't think you do. But what this is saying is that the momentum, there's so much you could do creatively if you also connect to your emotional side. Like, what? Because that's the core of it, pile 2. That really is. Like, your heart is the core of this, but you've shut it down to protect it, and or because you're in some environment or around people where you just don't think you can show that, or you think that becomes self-indulgent in some way. Like, someone might have really done a number on you in your childhood or something. I don't know what this is. You have such high standards for yourself that it's over the top. And it's out of balance for that reason. But there's like the passion for what would also be emotionally good for you. You want to move past this eclipse. You want to bring this energy out. You could move so far. I think you will move on, like literally move on in some way, from a workplace, from some relationships, from friendship circles, whatever it is, even from the cause to a different cause that's actually also going to serve you as well. Once you can break free of this guilt trip that you've got on yourself, because you've got unfinished business. You really do have a kind of destiny. But oddly enough, not getting your own emotional needs and own life in balance with the fervour of the cause is the thing that's stopping you from achieving your destiny. Very interesting. So let's see what really needs to be balanced in this. The Hierophant, the Ace of Cups, the Fool, the Emperor reversed. Okay. So for some of you, this has gone back to sort of patterning from your childhood and probably from the male side of your line, the father side of your line. There's a really strong, it's political or philosophical, really strong belief structure that underpins all of this. But for the new, for really moving forward, you almost have to go back to the innocence of your heart. In fact, you've been told it isn't innocent. This is what I'm getting really strongly. Something has told you, a parental figure, a boss, something has told you that they're the kind of doing anything that matters to your heart is somehow, it's subjective rather than objective. Like, it's like, I don't know, it's like you've been, and if you've tried to express it, you've been told, that you're just being subjective. And as a result, you've kind of detached. The Aquarius detaches. And, and in many ways can do some wonderful things as a result of it, but it does detach. And I think that you did it as a kind of survival thing. And I just think there's fairly high stakes around this. And I think there is like real success that could be had from it. But it's sort of like if you have the success without your heart being involved, even if it comes from, as I say, just being very cause-oriented, it's sort of like I could see you literally, in a loft in New York, alone, looking out at the city at night. I just, and yet you're meant to also have the emotional stuff. They're not antithetical. But someone has told you, and this is what you need to get back in balance, that the heart is innocent, and you actually need to be strong and knowledgeable. But you've got the strong, knowledgeable in spades. You don't have to worry about that. This is what needs to be. You need to reignite your heart, pile 2. So what don't you see that could impact this? The Star, the King of Swords, the Magician. Okay, all right. Like a literary thing. Again, I'm seeing you like in this loft in New York, and you're looking out, and because of the razzle-dazzle of the lights of New York, you can't see the stars in the sky. Like you've lost your direction because you've disconnected from your heart. It's interesting too, because the Star is Aquarius, but I think that it's like it's reconnecting it back to your thing, because the Star is also your North Star. It's not just the kind of like the transpersonal and so forth. So I think what you're not seeing is that you are just as important as the cause, and that you have all the intellect you need. You don't have to worry about any of that. In fact, you're all over that like a rash, basically. It's the emotional stuff you're avoiding. But the Magician wants to tell you you've got all the gifts. You can do this, and you're meant to manifest something. Like there is a sense of destiny about what you do. But this is incorporating everything, because if you think about the Magician, in many decks, they have all the implements, all the elements. That's it. All the elements need to be brought in. So we'll just pull 2 cards. What would the Hanged Man say to you? And as I say, do go and see Reena's reading if you haven't already, to get some other information on this, because there is a difference in perspective that's really necessary for you to achieve your North Star here, pile 2. 10 of Swords reversed, 3 of Wands reversed. What the Hanged Man would say is this pattern is over, pile 2. You cannot do this anymore. You've got to move away from the drama and trying to fit into other people's direction. You're meant to find your North Star now. You are ready to move forward, but you have to incorporate your heart, and you have to allow yourself to have an outcome. It's to not feel guilty about that. You know, you're meant to be successful. You're meant to take this forward. It's a high stakes thing, and you have everything in your kit bag that you need, but it's done. Like, you cannot keep doing this. You cannot keep doing this. You're meant to also be able to have your heart. And in fact, that will take you further than just the intellect and just the cause. So for the Wheels of Progress for the Chariot, I want to have a look at an archetype energy that could be a progressive energy for you. And then the alchemy energy that helps you transition. We're going to do that twice. So for the two so that we've got the 4 wheels in a sense on the Chariot, or the 4, I guess, ropes there in the case of that particular Chariot. So firstly, the first archetype, the Cave. So there's a going within. Yeah, you have to go within. You've been very, with Aquarius, you've been very other person-centered. You've been very external. You've been very much in the powers of the world and the structures of the world. You need to go within. That's where your heart is sitting. It's been locked up in a cave, pile 2. So go within. And then the alchemy energy for you. The moon. Yeah. I feel like the stars, the moon. I keep seeing this vision of you in a loft in New York, as I say. It's like there's so much out there, but the only way to get it is to go within. That's what I'm getting. Like you have a whole constellation, a whole galaxy within, and that's the emotional thing, and that's what you're eclipsing. And you think the moon here, and like you have to make the moon illuminate, not eclipse the emotional thing, and the only way is within. Let's go for the second set of wheels. So the archetype energy around that is the warrior. Yeah, and like you are a warrior. You are someone who's always going to move forward on a cause. This is not saying, pile 2, that you have to give up your cause. I don't think you could. It's just saying that you also have to look after within. But you'll still move forward because it's part of your destiny. The alchemy energy around the warrior, making the warrior energy work for you rather than take from you. Autumn. Letting the things that are past be in the past. Letting and getting ready for a quiet time within. These kind of connect. Quiet time within the cave in winter. You need a bit of time out. You need a bit of a rest. You're going to fight again because that's in your soul. But you need a little bit of time in winter, a little bit of time and night time to contemplate the stars and the moon. It doesn't always have to be a battle, pile 2. Okay, to also maybe give some advice, I'm thinking there's kind of like 3 elements of the journey of the chariot. The first is the kind of rhythm that you would get into, so we're going to get some advice in the music oracles. The second is what would you design now to move forward, so we're going to get it from the fashion oracles. And then thirdly, what is the ultimate destination or success from the success oracles. So it doesn't matter so much here who the people are, it's more what the advice is. And sometimes it's just humorous, so if that's the case, you of all people could do with a good laugh, I think. so take that on if you want. But firstly, for the rhythm the chariot wants you to sort of take into account moving forward. PJ Harvey. Oh, there you go, in with the fishes. When in doubt, swim to new ground. Yeah. And what is new for you? You are new for you. You are so other person centered. That's important. She says, jam with others, but remain the lead. Yeah. You can't do that if you're negating yourself. And she says, redream past lives. So this may be this pattern. You go within at night time in the dream state and you kind of let go of the past that hasn't worked and you redream what it is to be a warrior where you are also looking after yourself, pile 2. So then let's have a look at what the design energy is around the chariot for you. Cecil Beaton. He says, to be bored is lazy, to be the bore is unforgivable. Okay, and I think that's coming. I'm not saying that you're boring or that you're going to bore others, but I think what this is saying is that how can you truly have a vision if you're not within yourself as well? He says, be daring, be imaginative, and above all, be different. Yeah, you don't just fit in with what everybody else wants. So you're very connected to the collective, but you also need to be connected to yourself. And he says, a crisis is an even stronger reason to create. Yeah, but you can't create without the heart. That helps you warrior, your inner warrior, know what to do. So then what does success look like in this chariot's journey? Angela Merkel, wow. A penny saved is a problem solved. I think that's more about conserving your own energy than anything. She says no big debt goes unpunished. So that's interesting. If you are doing everything for everybody else, it's a bit like no good deed goes unpunished. You do need to be able to nourish yourself as well too, particularly in whatever world you guys are working in. And she says the free world has a lot of overhead. Yeah, it does. I think this is just pointing to the fact that most of you are working in pretty big stuff on one form or another. This is again why it's very important not to lose your own self within this. So what would your soul say to you? What would your 5D self say to you, pile 2? A wonderful surprise is coming. Something entirely new awaits you. Wonderful, good. If you go within and do all this, I think you're going to draw in something really beautiful. So there's like a gift or a surprise at the end of this process of going within and allowing yourself to, reward yourself a little bit, pile 2. And the tree of wishes is calling your name. An almost forgotten wish will now come true. Well, that's kind of a double blessing, isn't it? So, if you can get back to your heart, there's something very beautiful that you can reclaim almost that maybe you thought you couldn't have, that you had to give up or that you were guilty for wanting or whatever it is, as I say, that was sort of said to you. Okay, so how we're going to finish up is we're just going to get you some wild cards just for final advice from the chariot about things to be aware of that could be coming up on your journey, either challenges to be aware of or benefits to take advantage of. So, who runs the world? Discover talent, artistic expression, internal resources. Yeah, internal resources. A lot of you, this is, like, I think a lot of you are doing stuff either now or in the future that is very important in the world, socially, politically, creatively, something like that. Like, and a lot of you, there's power associated with this, and people who are involved in that is the biggest challenge, to also then have a life for themselves. But this is sort of saying that, you're going to really, really work out what you can do once you really reconnect back to yourself. And I am the key. Opportunity, inner solutions, new beginnings. Yeah, inner solutions. You are the key. The one bit in your recipe, or the one bit in the fuel tank of your chariot that you haven't been focusing on, is you, and yet you are the core of this. So last but not least, let's get you a card from the Cute and Creepy Oracle for one other wild card to bear in mind in your chariot's journey. Light bulb. Inspiration, a new idea, a new approach. This is saying it over and over and over. Once you do this, once you allow yourself to do this and you get over the guilt, something wonderful is coming through for you, pile 2. And you're going to realize how much this was the secret ingredient you were missing. It's like a light bulb, but like inspiration comes through, your sort of spiritual connection comes through, downloads come through, all of that kind of thing. Like that gift is waiting for you. It's waiting for you. But that's why we have to decide, and you have to go within the depths of the emotion. If you can go there and not be, and I don't think you're frightened of it, but not feel that you're being self-indulgent, wow, what can come from that is extraordinary. So I do think it's very important, because you do need to shift your focus a lot, your perspective a lot, because as I say, you've almost been trained to put yourself second. You need to think about what is uniquely you coming forward with this and connecting back to that and allowing yourself to care about yourself. So do go and see Reena's reading, because I do think the Hanged Man will have some really wise counsel in perspective for you. But beyond that, I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. I can tell you just from when I sort of laid out these cards, this is going to be an interesting reading. I can feel it in my bones. Firstly, you came to the reading with the Chariot with Baba Yaga, and as I said, that sort of really strikes me. I love this tarot, based on Slavic legends, and Baba Yaga is such a confronting sort of figure, I guess, about truth and right movement and right action and so forth. So the concept of coming to the Chariot where she is involved, I think there's courage associated with that. I think you have a lot of courage, preparedness to look at the shadow, balancing the kind of white and black energy here of these birds, that sort of energy, I think very air-oriented, sort of sense of being up in the air is part of this energy as well. So I think there's a lot about philosophy and beliefs and so forth associated with your Chariot journey where there is momentum for you. There's also, I think, a lot about karma and about maturity, because you have Saturn here. So I think this is something that's been a long time coming, actually. It could be over lifetimes, potentially. As I say, there could be a very strong karmic thing associated with it. But if it's not, it's something that you have grown and built over a long time, and you have a very mature approach to it. So this is part of what's going to make it possible for you to be on a chariot that's up in the air and sort of like moving very, very fast. I feel like it's going to go fast, but it's been slow to date, and I think it's about to speed up. And as I say, there's a maturity about this. There's a long-term outcome about this. There's some karma around this. I think you're meant to really achieve something. With Moon in Taurus, there's a sort of the emotional connection, the personal growth, self-esteem, as it says. But, these pearls, this suggests to me, again, in combination with Saturn, there is a sense here like the pearl is created in the oyster by grit, by something over time, and something that was not easy. So I think this is, you've really done the hard yards for a start. And I think you are poised now to move forward to something that is materially or emotionally very rich and part of the good life. So that's wonderful, but it has taken time. And it's probably to do with either relationships or to do with something creative that you're bringing in. So this could be, for some of you, after a very long time looking, you find the one, because you've done the personal growth work. You've faced Baba Yaga. So I'm saying there's something brave about you. Or it could be there's a creative project that has taken a long time to grow, like, you've written a novel or something like that, and you're ready to bring it into the world. And it really could. It really could bring you the personal growth, the wealth, the esteem, all of those sort of things that you're looking for. But I think this is the key. This is why you're brave enough to be there with her. There's a great maturity, and you've put the hard yards in. So I think that your chariot wants to talk to you about now how to best bring this into being, because I feel like it's almost feel like it's this wonderful thing that's just on the precipice of happening. And it's been so long in coming. The one risk you might have is almost not seeing it, because you almost cease to believe in it. You've just been in the day by day thing. But you are meant to actually start to step into what you want creatively or in love. Now this card is a question that also is relevant to you keeping everything in balance and so forth, and achieving this beautiful outcome. So what did you get? I don't do reversals with this. This is the constellation Eridanus. I'm not sure how easy it is to read this. So it says, how might you flourish if you gave yourself permission to change? Yeah, because you've done, this is the feeling that I had about this. It's like you are so dedicated to what you've done. You've really painstakingly done something. But I think, yeah, Baba Yaga wants to come in. Now she wants to stir everything up and get it moving fast. This is the change. It's moving from something very slow growing, very considered. But now you're on the precipice of the breakthrough. So she wants to kind of stir that all up, and you've got to be ready to do that. So I think this is saying that your chariot wants you to be ready to start moving very quickly on something that you've put an enormous amount of energy into. So there's a lot of promise with this, but it's a bit of a shock to the system, just as Baba Yaga turning up with her birds there would be a shock to the system. And yet there's such a promise to it if you give yourself the permission to now kind of go, okay. And for some of you, I'm actually getting, this is very specific, but for some of you, you may have had a great deal of responsibility. You know, it could have been a parent bringing up kids, and now, you know, you've got an empty nest and you've got freedom to do something. It could be that you've been looking after people, you know, who are unwell or something in your family, and now you have the freedom to do something. And it's almost the shock of, my God, now I can enjoy myself. And you've got to give yourself permission to do that because you've earned it. So that's a very specific thing, but I just got that, so I thought I'd say it. Now, we're going to try and get a little bit more information about this from Tarot. So we're firstly going to ask a bit more about what this forward momentum is the Chariot wants you to look at. Then we're going to ask what you need to balance to make it really work for you, what you don't see that could impact it, and then we'll get a couple of cards from the Hanged Man as well for the different perspectives. So firstly, a little bit more about what is this opportunity, I think, that's come after a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of dedication. What are we looking at? Nine of Wands, 10 of Wands reversed, the Moon, 3 of Cups, 10 of Cups reversed. Look, I think for quite a lot of the people who've come here, I think, there is a sense maybe around family obligations, or, you know, like, and this doesn't necessarily have to be your immediate family. It could be sort of like older people in your family or something like that, or old emotional ties, old emotional obligations that are shifting. You've really done the work, and it's so close. But like when you get the 9 of Wands, you can sort of feel like, do I have the energy to really get there? So it's almost as though you've just been day in, day out doing something, and it was a burden. You are about to drop this burden. Like Baba Yaga's coming in to say, now, you know, now you can drop it and you can let go of these patterns that were kind of emotionally and energetically burdening you, because something beautiful is coming through. Real love, real happiness, real celebration, real emotional connection, all of those sort of stuff. This is a reward. Your Chariot wants you to know you have a reward coming, but it's just when you don't expect it, because you're just thinking, like, can I really keep going? And yet in a weird way, you're kind of caught in that 9 of Wands energy at the moment. You just keep on keeping on. You're like a battery that keeps recharging. But this shift, and what the Chariot wants you to recognize when it comes, is it's your turn. It's your turn. And you'll pick it up in things like dreams and kind of all that numinous sort of energy, you know, meditations or whatever. You're going to start to see it, but you are meant to be able to celebrate now. Your time is coming, and you can let go of things that didn't emotionally work. You can let go of, I just think some of you, you've had to look after people. You've had to put other people's needs first, and not necessarily in a bad way. As I say, this could be like empty nest syndrome for some of you. It could be that, you know, you've spent so much time raising children or whatever, and you love your children to death and you're incredibly devoted to them, and nothing wrong with any of that or anything with your relationship, but like something shifting to allow you time. That's a good example of this, but it could be anything. But you've got to embrace it. That's all. That's the only thing you have to do. So what do you need to balance to really embrace that? Two of Cups reversed, the High Priestess, the Star, the Six of Coins reversed. Okay. So this is the balance of the internal knowing and internal navigation system that the Chariot wants. It's all there spiritually and so forth. As I say, meditation, dreams is going to tell you a lot. But this is about you following your path now. You've looked after other people or other issues or whatever. This is time for you. This is what the Chariot is saying. And what you've got to bring into balance is you've had a tendency to put the other person first always, and you've had a tendency to be always the generous one. You've got to get that into balance. The people that you've looked after, they're ready to look after themselves now. So that's in whatever form this is. So you've got to kind of like rebalance this so that it's not out of balance with what other people are getting from something compared to you, and that you're following your North Star. This is really the thing. It's just, what is your North Star? Yeah, and like knowing that and allowing yourself to embrace that. So what don't you see that could impact on this for you, pile 3? The Hermit, the Three of Swords reversed, the Seven of Cups. I think you don't fully see how important this high. See, we've got the Moon, the High Priestess, and the Hermit. It's almost like they're, and it's interesting because they're kind of this original sort of structure of how I put things out was almost to be pointing you to the future. This is also saying remembering something from the past, because it's almost pointing in the opposite direction. There is something deeply spiritual in you. This is how you've had this ability to do this, and there could be karmic things, and you could have been dealing with a lot of karmic sort of stuff around people around you, family members, friends, whatever. You don't fully see how deeply spiritual you are. So there's a kind of look back at that and realize that, because then you're going to know it's your turn, and that you're right to celebrate. You find it a little bit hard to let go of pain. But I think it's other people's pain. I think you're highly empathic. I think you probably literally feel other people's pain. This is part of the spiritual stuff. But that's something that you need to let go of a bit so that you can enjoy things, so that you can actually start to see the options available. It just feels like you've put so much effort into other people, and it's like you almost have forgotten what your dream is. But if you remember this, there's something deeply spiritual about this. So what would the Hanged Man say? Because, you know, like the Hermit, the High Priestess, the Moon, really do want to hear from the Hanged Man as well too. And I do suggest you go and get the reading from Reena if you haven't already, because there is something very spiritual about this. You've earned this, pile 3. What does the Hanged Man want to say? Just a couple of cards as a teaser for you. Six of Swords, Four of Coins. I feel like the Four of Coins, the treasure here, is a bit like the treasure here. This is your time to build a foundation for yourself. And you should be at peace for this. But I think it's like, it is a bit of a shock to the system, I think. And you have to allow yourself to change, as the story's oracle question said. So I think the Hermit, sorry, not the Hermit, the Hanged Man wants to talk to you about how you can have a peaceful journey towards your treasure, your outcome. Okay, so I was thinking in terms of like the structure of a chariot, and the chariot has wheels, or in the cases of some of these birds, and so sort of thinking in terms of like wheels as an archetype and an alchemy energy, and do this a couple of times so that we cover the sort of like both sets of wheels that would take you forward. So this is a little bit more information from the chariot about the archetype energy and the transitional energy that will help you really move forward and have this personal momentum. So the first archetype is the mentor Now there's a couple of things from this. Firstly, this could be a lot about it. It could have been a teacher. It did actually occur to me at one point, I didn't say it when I was sort of looking at this, like with the Six of Coins and the Two of Cups, like if people have reached a point where they've graduated, I was sort of thinking, I didn't sort of say it because I got kind of caught up talking about the star, but so some of you may have been teachers and it's now your time to kind of go on sabbatical and like kind of replenish your batteries and enjoy your life. But I think it also could be saying that this is the shift that you could do. If you still want to support others, shift the role from being the kind of the protector and the steward of it all to being someone who mentors, but they go off and do what they're going to do, because that then allows you to free yourself up. I'm also getting for some of you that's seeking a mentor. Like if it feels really alien now to go after what you want, maybe a mentor will help you do that, or a coach. Let's see the alchemy energy around it as well for you. It's interesting that came up for another group, autumn. Yeah, it's letting go of what something is done, you've done your time. But I think this is also, I always think with autumn, because autumn, the leaves fall and then we have winter and then after that spring comes. So I think this is also saying a time of going within, looking back to the past and honouring the past, particularly spiritual past, and working out what would you want to plant, for spring. And this is where maybe a mentor could help you, or where the advice that you've mentored others could help you. But there is definitely something coming to an end, so something new can come in. And then the second set of wheels, the archetype. The castle. Now that's interesting too. I think there's some very interesting, almost double messages for you, pile 3, because the castle is a place where precious things are kept. Like royalty, precious jewels, all of that kind of thing. It's a fortress in many ways. And that's a wonderful thing. And I think you've created that. You've created a solid foundation for people, all of that kind of thing. I think the question might be is, where is your castle? What is the journey for your castle, your treasure? And have you been entrapped by the castle that you created for others? So it's like, how do you liberate yourself from the burden of Saturn to move to the promise of the personal growth here? So the alchemy energy around it. Oh, winter. Okay. This is telling you about the timing. That makes sense too when you've got Saturn. You're sort of someone who's you're very patient. I always admire patient people. And you're very attuned to timing. So this is saying that like understanding the different role of being mentor, I think, rather than steward, or the protector of the castle or whatever, that let go of that old role to create your own castle. But it will take time to do that. Now you have to allow yourself the same amount of time to enjoy yourself and go after what you wanted as you put into everybody else, and be prepared that it will take that time, but be happy, to be calm, to know that you can do it, because there's a lot of promise that needs to be kind of nurtured and allowed to sort of settle and clarify itself, I think, before you move forward. But you are going to come into growth. After this, we then come into spring and summer, and all the growth comes. So one of the other things that I felt about the momentum of the Chariot is that there are certain sort of aspects about the momentum, and I thought about rhythm. So I'm going to get you a music oracle to give you some advice. I also thought about the design of what you're trying to do. So we've got the fashion oracles, and then what the destination is, the outcome. So we're going to get success oracles. So this is less about the people, unless they, if they mean something to you, by all means, like take that information in. But it's more about what their advice is. So when we're talking about the Chariot, wants to talk to you about the rhythm that you should have in riding the Chariot. Bob Marley, bit of reggae. He says, a small axe can fell the tallest tree. It's interesting, we've got two trees here. I think it's saying just the smallest acts as well as a small axe, just the smallest things of like doing something for yourself, enjoying something for yourself, allowing love in, allowing creativity in, all of those sort of things, whatever this means to you. You don't have to do huge things, and you can take time with it. Growth takes time. But it will move past this energy. You've done your time, like you definitely have. He says the fruits of Babylon are rotten to the core. So that's interesting. I think that actually might be one of the reasons why you have such a sense of responsibility. I think you kind of understand the world. There's something about, looking after people and so forth in a harsh world, and that's where you've kind of forgotten your own joy as well too. But I think it is saying that, you were wise and what you did was good. I think it's a congratulations. And he says everything that is holy is among us here on earth. Yeah, what we do here in earth is what matters. So again, there is a reward. This is telling me over and over the Chariot. It says you deserve a reward. You people deserve a reward. I'm feeling a little bit emotional. My eyes are a little bit watery at the moment. Because if anybody deserves a reward, it's you, pile 3. So let's see what you could design with your reward. Richard Avedon. If in doubt, add elephants. I think that's like if in doubt, add a bit of fun, to be honest. Bit of fun. Dress for your cover girl moment. Yeah, like your moment. You're allowed to have something, pile 3. And capture life on camera, but be sure to live it too. Yeah, so look back, but also live and move into the future. And then what would the success look like in the journey of your Chariot? Ayn Rand. Wow, okay. She says self-interest has mass appeal. I think there's something interesting in these. I think that you understand the world. But I think you do actually have to balance it off, because I think you see where things can be rotten, things can be corrupt, all of that kind of thing. But also there is a point where you've done the responsible thing. You're also allowed. It's not self-interest is not necessarily bad in that situation. She says find like-minded individualists. So probably there's something about, and this is why we had the 5 of the 5th house, the kind of love, the romance, the creativity, finding people, like enjoying people that you don't have to have a responsibility for, but you can just enjoy. And those who live in glass houses will not be told what they can and cannot throw. Yeah, and you don't. Do you. That's what Barbie Yaga wants to say over here. Do you, pile 3. Okay. So what does your soul want to say in response to all of this? Nature is calling you. It wants to touch, fulfill, and protect you with its healing powers. So maybe even just getting out in nature. It's interesting that it's 2 of the seasons that we got as the kind of alchemizing energy for you. So just getting out into nature might be just a part of like enjoying things. And I think that's very with all the green, very heart chakra as well. So the heart, bringing in the heart. And the time for romance has come. Yeah, if any of you are looking for love, the time as romance has come. That was the 5th house being there as well too. See it as an opportunity for a radiant life. See it as a reward. You're meant to sort of be happy, pile 3, because you've done a lot to make other people happy. So let's finish off with just 3 wild cards for anything else on the journey that the Chariot wants you to be aware of, either other challenges to be aware of or other benefits to enjoy. So, hot chocolate. Flirting, new connections, friendship, feeling, getting together. I'm going to put this with the romance. Yeah, have a bit of fun. Saying it over and over, have a bit of fun, lighten up, bring in love. You're meant to enjoy things now. This is a reward. It's a very, very strong message. And given that Barbie Yaga can be a fairly severe character, like if she's coming and saying it's time for you, I'd pay attention, pile 3, quite frankly. Then we have, where do I fish? Self-made person, intuition versus rationality, creative brain, logical brain. So I think this is sort of saying go to your creative brain. I think you've been very logical. But yeah, where do you fish? Where are you going to find what you want? It's time to sort of go looking for what you want. And last but not least, a card from the Cute and Creepy Oracle for a 3rd wild card for you. Summer. Oh, look, you can't write home about it, can you? Like you've got autumn, winter. We skipped spring, fine, gone straight to the main game with summer. Period of maturing powers, fruitful warmth. Yeah, you are meant to have some fun. So where do you want to look for fun? Because your reward is waiting for you, pile 3. You really, really deserve it. And if you're feeling unconvinced and you're thinking, oh yeah, but I have all these responsibilities, then it's really important to go, if you haven't already, and see what the hangman has to say. Because the hangman talks about, where we need a different perspective, where we need to slow down a bit and like maybe get a different perspective there. Also where we've sometimes been too self-sacrificial. So I think it's a very, very important one for you. So if you haven't already done so, please do go and see Reena's reading as well. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this reading. I hope you heard the message, because there's a reward coming for you. And as I say, you above all others deserve this reward, pile 3. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.